Hello, and welcome to the mentorDINO podcast. I'm your host, Caitlin Rossier. I am an architect and founder of mentorDINO. Join me each week as I speak with amazing professionals in and around the architecture, engineering, and construction industry, as we are all part of a larger interconnected community. We discuss everything from career stories, lessons learned, and advice for others finding their own unique career path. Thank you to all of our current subscribers, and if you're new, welcome to the conversation. And if you like this episode, please do me a favor by hitting subscribe, like, or share it with a friend. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support them on their own unique career journey. On today's episode of the mentorDINO podcast, I would like to welcome Darguin Fortuna, Principal of Flow Design in Salem, Massachusetts. Thank you, Darguin, for taking the time to speak with me today.
Thank you for having me. Super excited to be here and seeing all you have done from our first, touching base back when I took my exams and the interview process and all that. And I've seen a lot of familiar faces and people from the YIF that have been involved with you on this, and I'm super excited to be here.
Yeah, and we got to meet in person for the first time at AI Nationals. So
that's right. We have a selfie.
Yeah, all those stories I collected, it just made Nationals so much more fun to run around. I felt like I was running into old friends or, friendly faces that I actually recognize rather than just the mass of people.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. Yeah.
But jumping into the episode, I always like starting out with my loaded question. And if you mind introducing yourself so my listeners can learn a little bit more about your experience and journey so far in education and career.
All right. So Darguin Fortuna, I was born and raised in Jima Abajo. It's a small city in the Dominican Republic, a part of La Vega will be the state, La Vega, almost like Las Vegas, but not as. So I was born and raised there, moved to Santo Domingo, which is the capital of the Dominican Republic, to study architecture back in 2008, and then got the opportunity to come with my mom, my brother, and my little sister to the United States in 2010, and restarted that career at the Boston Architectural College here in Boston, and have been in Massachusetts ever since, and really love it in here. The BAC was a great choice as a school. They don't pay me to say this, but it was a great choice because I had to kind of start over, and people that at that time went to the BAC didn't have time to mess around. It was like, let's get this done and move forward. Many of them had, careers already established in either in construction. It wasn't a party school for sure. It was just, let's get work done and go back. And most people have families already and all that. So that was the profile in my environment. And that's how I got initiated into the profession in the United States from the Dominican.
So was the program at Boston, were you more getting a master's degree, or did you have to go through the full education process?
That's good. That's a great question, by the way. I'm studying on that because I was thinking about it last night. I was like, there's all these people that get a master's of architecture, and I see it as, well, you do the master's because you didn't know what you wanted to do. Because if you always knew that you wanted to be an architect, you can get a accredited, NCARB, NAB accredited degree as a bachelor's. And that's what I did. I got a bachelor's of architecture, about 4 years program, 4 or so. And it included everything I needed to then record my hours and sit for the exams, which I did immediately. As soon as I graduated, I started the exams. So I didn't waste any time on that too. Wanted to catch up with my friends. A lot of them were married and with kids, and I was like back to school, so that was a great program. Absolutely loved every second of it. It wasn't necessarily easy, but architecture is never really easy. But it was exactly what I needed to develop myself to where I am right now.
Yeah, I know when I was looking at programs, I kind of had a radius around Pittsburgh. I was looking, and it was like, if you went for the bachelor's, it was a 5-year bachelor's. And then other ones, if it wasn't fully NCARB accredited, then it was like, okay, stay an extra year for your master's. And I was like, whatever, I'll just go with one I get into within the radius so I can be close to family as needed. So
if I knew Boston was only 4 and it could have been done, like I may have added that to my
Well,
list.
it is 4 if you really adhere to it. I don't think a lot of people did. I know some that definitely stay there for a decade. So yeah, it all depends.
Maybe not do that.
Yeah, it was because it's open enrollment. I mean, it's been always open enrollment. So this career, only the stronger survive. Just like my name pronounced Darwin, like the evolution, right? Only the strong survive. You don't choose this career because because you didn't have anything else to do. I think this is something that you take out of passion and love. So yeah.
Yeah. And I know you mentioned we first met when I was running an ARE story series. So collected over 80 stories over, that was 2023? And I think I stopped them this year in 24. But when you shared your story, I know I was always captivated by those that it wasn't an easy process, because I know I failed 2 exams and I felt like I was an awful human being and architect failing these. And when I started collecting these stories and seeing how open and honest people were on, it's not a straightforward process, and most people aren't perfect going through it, and there can be struggles. And I know you had kind of a roller coaster ride through it. So do you have any advice for any of those struggling or needing some motivation, or if you wanted to dive into a little bit of that story?
Yeah. I mean, now it's fun looking back, right?
When you're done with it.
When I was in the middle of them, it was super frustrating. I always tell, I'm pretty well known on NCAR because every day after one exam, I would wake up early and rant about how horrible it was. And literally Ryan and Nick, Ryan is no longer there, but they were like, what is Darwin saying today? They literally would like bet on me talking on the board. And then 20 minutes later, I will have a little wimpy kid moment where I'm like, no, it was all good, just in case I didn't want to be flagged as a bad troublemaker. I was like, no, never mind. It's all good. I have to trust the process and believe in the process. And but it was hard. I mean, life gets in the way too, and there's never an easy time to do it. And I always tell everyone, just do it as soon as you can possibly do it and get it over with. I already had a son, and there was my daughter, my second to oldest, was coming in the way. And I knew that it wasn't going to get any easier as they grew. In fact, I had another child. So I have 3 now. And the goal was, let's push through and keep the momentum from school. So I graduated in 2016. May 2016, and then I immediately started taking in November when they did the 5.0 version. So I was one of the guinea pigs. So I jumped right into it. I've become very humble ever since that, and in running my own practice, which probably we're going to get into in a minute. I've become more humble because I know what I know and what I don't know, right? And I can draw the line and say, this is as far as I go. So honesty is really the best policy. So I was cocky as a student because my only issue when I started the BAC was English. And I guess we've gone past that because I can speak. But I couldn't speak English. I really couldn't. So I got here with 0% English. So I never judge anybody that doesn't know it because they can really pick it up at some point. And then the problem is to get me to get quiet. That's the problem. So I was cocky through school because I could do models, I could draw. I had already done, about 2.5 years of school in summer. But then when I got into the exams, I thought I could really pass and ace through them. No. So practice management, I did pass right away. But since I was part of the cut score guinea pig, establishing that cut score, I didn't get the results until the following year, July or so. And I had already taken 3 exams, and I took practice, project, and construction evaluation. And I took a little break. I was like, I don't know. So I'm shooting in the dark and I don't know where I'm going. So let's see. And I remember quite vividly now when I got the results, I was going to Orlando with the kids for the first time with the 2 children I had. And I open and refresh it as I'm getting in the plane, and I see pass practice management. And I was like, what? Pass construction and evaluation. And then I see project management fail. And I was like, who cares? Who cares? It's, I got to give one back, And then they also had a gift card for $100 and a free retake. it really was that's also when I got into almost like business management and financial planning. I was like, this is a no-brainer decision, just taking the exam by itself is experience. And I would pay for the experience, but they're giving me $100 and a free retake, So what I noticed is that the things I care a lot about, like practice management and construction evaluation, were the ones I passed because I care about eventually running a practice. Like that was something that was playing in the background of in my brain. And I was like, well, you got to protect liability with your practice and no practice management. So the other ones that dealt with like very intricate English, like programming and analysis, like applying the way that things are said and interpretation. So I noticed that my Spanish was getting in the way. And I'm glad that there is actually incentives for people with a second language, like longer times and things like that. I don't think that that's bad. I think that, it takes a little bit to process those things. So it was frustrating. I failed a few. Believe it or not, I passed within the year, according to the rolling clock, because the clock started in July when I passed the first one. So and I passed all the way in July by the next year. I had already passed all of them. So and I got licensed that same year. So that was like, well, but I did fail like 3 times. Like and there were like 3 or 5 times. I don't even know who's counting, right? But I'm glad I got it done. It opened the doors to what we today have. And I encourage everyone to stick through it. It is certainly worth it. I throw in things like material things so that people get incentivized. Like I go to a lot of schools, preschools and high schools and middle schools to talk to kids about architecture, and they don't see this as like as a money career. But I do tell them I live well. I do drive a Range Rover. Like it's not like I'm broke. You know what I mean? Like you can I can get bling blings. They're not gonna be $10,000 bling blings, but I can get something. So that's a way of encouraging people. Like I do live a pretty, I'm getting to an amazing life now. Like I'm walking towards that amazing life with balance, even as I run my own practice, which is taking some time. But yeah, so it's worth it. Yeah.
And getting through it as a second language. I know I've talked to a number of professionals that English isn't their first language. And when they do these like little word tricks in their questions, like English is my main language, and those threw me off. I could only imagine if I was trying to take it in another language that you didn't even know when you came to the States.
That's right. So, yeah, and remember, it's a foreign career, like a profession. Being able to speak a language, I mean, that's, a 3-year-old can talk, right? But like professionally and understand these concepts, that's a whole nother layer, So all respects to those that are taking it, and English is their second language. And believe it or not, that's a superpower they have. Yeah.
Yeah. And then you come out even more of a rock star. I can only imagine, like, I studied French. I'm like, I would not want to take a test in French right now. And
imagine that.
All those little words. I'm like, I speak like a 2-year-old when I have to speak French. So I'm like, yeah, I'm good. So I give you and many others so much credit.
Thank you.
Make sure that everybody, if this is a second language for you, that you have some options to, get a little bit more time, take it. So then you can breathe a little bit. Because I know when I took all my exams in 4.0, and I know the biggest comment back when people were going through that beta test of 5.0 was time.
That's right.
And just making sure you could actually finish everything.
He expired on me a couple of times too. And some of them I passed, but he expired. Like I couldn't finish. So that's it was tough.
Yeah.
But thank you for bringing me back to those amazing moments.
The stressful moments that now you can reflect back and use it as a learning opportunity to help others, which I always appreciate. So
that's right.
But I wanted to jump into your own firm, because even though you struggled through some of the exams, you are still a firm owner now. So no matter how many you pass or fail along your journey, you never know where you can take it. So I know it sounds like you started Flow with Marcos. And
that's right.
So how'd you know it was the right time to start and starting it as a partnership?
So we met in the Dominican Republic, me and Marcos, right? Very bright, consistent, disciplined man, right? And that was early on. We're talking 2008. We were kids, but I could see those those qualities in him. And he disappeared from the school for a little while, and I didn't know what happened. And I realized that he came to the States, and through Facebook we reconnected. And the idea of doing something together was always there. He went to a community college, and I moved immediately to the Boston Architectural College, and then he transferred. And the only thing we had like 2 classes only together, like a sketch problem, which we collaborated on. And then we had a history class. But at the BAC, you have to work and study. So that's a requirement. You do not move to the next segment until you get the practice hours required to move to that segment. So you wouldn't move forward. So he was working at different firms, and I was working at different firms. And there was a bit of a conflict. We would call each other to rant through our drives home about unfairness. There were a lot of bitter people in the industry. There were others that would kind of put a ceiling on you. But then there was also this cloud that I didn't want to put a name on, but it was really the cloud of, we're not from here. Like, I'm not from here. You know what I mean? It's like, you're a foreigner. And it became more evident over time as I have gone to certain places. And there was one really bold moment where someone told me to go back to my country, that I didn't belong here. It wasn't in architecture, but those things were rippling into my brain like, oh my gosh, I really don't fit in. And I looked at the different offices, many great offices, to be honest. I stay connected with them very much. But like the path forward through that corporate ladder was not going to happen for me. It was going to take, it will happen because I know my work ethic and my skills. It was going to happen, but it was going to be so much slower, and my kids were going to struggle, and my wife at the time, I'm divorced now, was going to struggle. So it was going to be a lot harder, and I didn't want them to go through that. So I thought, well, why don't we create a place for those without a place, right? Like the Misfits is a fitting with the holiday season. Like the Misfits, let's all get together and create this place where we all belong. We know that it's not even about, today, diversity, equity, and inclusion. It was like, let's create this ecosystem where we thrive. It wasn't to meet some quota numbers. It wasn't to meet some requirements made up by people. No, it was because we thought that would make us better. And he did. So Marcos and I both agree. And he took a little longer to make the jump to work full time. It was like, hey, I don't know how we're doing, and me and my ex-wife at that time were having some friction. I mean, it makes sense. We were broke. It was hard. And Julio Gutierrez, our director of design, started right there with us too, and made the jump. He made the jump with me. And I hadn't passed the exam, so we were basically consultants to other architectural offices, drafting, which came in handy. And we incorporated. I always tell people this story. So we incorporated our entity, one, as flow design, and I know you probably wonder why flow, because it was against every pre-established rigid environment, right? Like it couldn't just be an office that felt like a law office. It had to feel like that's creative, that's fun, that's fluid. So we came up with the name Flow because it means that. It means happiness. It actually means that state of higher consciousness, to be honest, where everything feels perfect. We all have experienced that in some way or another, where like all the lights, the traffic lights are green for you that day. There's nothing wrong. And we have been collaborating with Greg Carell, the brother, of Steve Carell.
Yeah.
So yeah, from The Office. So we were working with him, and his first payment was what we used as the money to create Flow Design, and it was on February 14th. Great day, right? Happiness, friendship, love, right? So we put it all together there, and we, I passed the exam shortly thereafter. So that was 2017, and then the next year we were licensed. I immediately called my licensing board. I always like to stress this because a lot of people look up to me as a Latino minority architect, as a path, that they can, and I want to embody that path, that you can make it. But there is a distinction, and there are some regulations that must be followed. Like we have Flow Design Studios as a graphic design and visualization studios. Nothing to do with architecture whatsoever. And we had an attorney for free advise us on like how to create that entity. As soon as I became licensed, literally that the state, Massachusetts, gave me my license, I called the state, changed everything on every website, changed the article of organization, and I was like, I'm an architect. Let's change all that. And that's when we could actually render architectural services. For a couple of years, a lot of firms didn't know that we were licensed, and we were still collaborating with them. They're like, oh, you guys are great drafters. And I'm like, well, we're actually architects. I'm actually licensed. They're like, what? And then we emancipated ourselves to where we are today. And it's been a great journey. Owning a business and realizing that you own a business, that a business doesn't own you, is a process too. I'm getting there. I'm almost there. And the team that you associate yourself with is it's everything at the end of the day. If they consider this a career, not just a job, and they look at the legacy that everyone is leaving behind, it really is a joy to look at the work that you do, the empowerment of the next generation, even learning through the mistakes that we make because we don't know everything. It's really remarkable. I wouldn't do it in any other way. I wouldn't want it in any other way. This is an amazing journey.
Yeah. Even how you talk about how it started, how like Marcos was a little bit more timid to take the jump. It's when I've talked to others that have started their own firm, it's you hit that moment that leap doesn't look like a tremendous leap anymore. And everybody hits that point at different times, but then they've always said, I would do it again in a heartbeat.
Yeah. And Marcos always says, I wish I had done it before.
Yeah.
He was like, I wish I had done it before. And so to those that may want to, I'm a member of the Young Architect Forum. The next year is my last year. And also the Small Firm Exchange, which is two completely different things. But the small firm exchange firms are 10 or less. They always talk about how they made the decision of opening their firms. And it's like many of them went on a trip and they started thinking about things, or the wife said, you're not enjoying the projects of the firm anymore. Someone else kind of told them that I don't see the spark in you anymore. And they're like, really? Like, what's going on? And then they decide to jump, to open the firm. Many of them didn't have a lot of funds. Some of them had some savings too. And it's interesting. As a minority, we don't have a whole lot of money. I'm sorry, I'm saying we, but it's hard, right? Like it's just paying rent is a struggle, right? So one thing that we did that I would recommend people, and this is not financial advice, but it's just look at what you're able to do yourself, right? And say, this is how I did it. Okay. So I had Darwin Jr. and I had Emmeline and I had my Caitlin, my ex-wife. So she was working part-time. We looked at the mortgage. We looked at everything. And I was like, okay, if I get X amount of projects, even one or two, I'm able to cover mortgage. I'm able to cover some of the expenses. But Emmeline and DJ, I want them to do swimming lessons. I got an Uber. So, and I want to take Caitlin on a date, which I didn't really do much of that, but, so I got to do Uber and Lyft for a little bit. Right. And then I also started teaching at the BAC as a way of augmenting my income a little bit. It's not a whole lot. As an adjunct professor, so don't really make that much, unfortunately. But it was like, and then I did the math and I said, well, what if Julio comes in? Because I am making it rain. Work is coming in, but I can't get it done because I got to do all of these other things. So then Julio comes in. And it really is like that song of the elephants. One elephant starts jumping and you see that you can handle it. And I said, well, Marcos, listen, Julio has no business desires. Like he's a director of design. He cares about design. He doesn't want to be selling any services. If you are making calls and I am making calls and you're going to nonprofit events, organizations, and I am doing it, we could probably double our results. Could you make enough to support yourself? And that was the jump. He's like, let me look at my finances. He's very good. Marcos is amazing. He looked at his debt, liabilities, everything. He said, well, I got to pay just a couple of credit cards and then I'm in full time. And literally that's how he did it. Like September 2019, he was like, I'm in full time. Done. Yeah. But it was that math. You have to know what do you need to bring in to survive. And some people don't know what that number is. A lot of people are very elusive about what it is that they want. It's ridiculous how people walk through life not knowing what's your bottom line. How much do you need to survive? What about savings? What about investments? What about taking grandma for a little ice cream trip, right? Mm-hmm. You have to figure out how to do that. And it's just sitting down with a little Excel sheet. Many know that, but they don't do it because they're scared, right? Like, they don't want to see the reality. The faster you understand your financial reality, the better it is to solve it. That's it, and that's how we did it. And it's been amazing. And that's how we run the office too. It's like, okay, we got 10 people. This is payroll. Can we project that we can get that? Yeah. Everybody making calls and advertising for the company, we can do it, and that's how it's been.
Yeah. And to use those spreadsheets to figure out even what your fee is. Because so many people, when they start out, they don't even know where to start, or they have told me advice of don't price yourself this low because I did that. And it's like, well, did you do the math? Like, do you have a firm location? Are you working remote? What's the program's cost? Like, you have your bottom line that you have to hit just to make the expenses of the business meet, but then you have to pay yourself too. You got to do that.
That's right. That's right. And, and going back to that, which is great that you're talking about it. We just recently, we had a little crisis, believe it or not, internally within our office. So when you open a firm, you don't know where it's going. I mean, even the name Flow tells you we go with the flow, right? Whatever the flow goes. So you don't know who you are and what you are. And people always tell me, well, begin with your why in mind. It's like, well, we didn't have a why, but we looked at ourselves. The why is us, the diversity, the power that we bring into the table as a team. But that took a while, right? Like, just like the apple hitting Isaac Newton. He had to hit him in the head, I think, to be able to get it. So, but you don't know what kind of an office you want to be until you go through some things. And your fee will determine how you're going to be perceived by others. Obviously, whether you have a location or not, it's also going to change how you're being perceived by others. Some people have come in here literally just to know that we are for real. Like, they do have an office. Literally, that's the only reason. Because when I analyze it, I'm like, why did they come here? I mean, they didn't need anything. I don't even know. Yeah. It was just to check us out. And that said, the clients that you may start with are not the clients that are going to get you to where you want to go forever. There is a limit to that. We started doing a whole lot of flips and like underdog work, but those clients, to some degree, we were seeing ourselves as very disposable, quick, cheap architects. And our team got together and said, this is the message we're sending, and this is how our clients are treating us with the emails. Is that the firm flow is? And if that's the case, I'm out. And we were looking at it, it's like, you don't understand, other firms are charging 3 times this price, and we're probably 10 times better. So what's going on here? The way that you price yourself is going to tell the market, but you have to embody that great work, right? Like, you can't just say, oh, I'm the best. No. So, but our staff members weren't happy. Not so much because of how much we were paying them. They're happy with what they're getting paid, but because of how fast the projects were, how disposable we were, the tone of the clients, contractor clients or developer clients. And we were like, oh, wait a minute. And we just literally radically changed it. We got Monograph as our project management software. No kudos to them yet. I don't know how good they are yet. We just started. We moved into Autodesk Docs and started creating basically a firm that has a cloud that is protected, and that's helping us know how much does it cost you to make this, because we didn't really know how much we had a notion, because there was always profits, but we didn't know whether we were overcharging or undercharging. We knew we were undercharging, and that meant we probably were underpaying our staff members, and also maybe we were underpaying for our office. Maybe we had a good deal, but we needed to meet the demand and the requirements of the office, and we're now changing. And guess what? Now we're doing 20 unit buildings, 18 unit buildings, right? Like, the mentality has been changing in the market. So now we're like transforming into the office that we want to be. We know what we do not want to be. We don't want to be, putting out fires. No, I send emails to my clients. You got with 48 hours, we'll respond to you. If not, wait for it until the next week, because we plan our week on Fridays for the following week. So people have to wait. So it's been hard, but we've been saying those things, like things are going to take time. This is the process. We've done it over 2,000. Guess what? Over 2,000 projects we've done. So from the little deck to big houses and 18 unit, 20 unit buildings. So, in that, people that are in the business now that are thinking about opening their own firm, do think about that why, but do also think about what kind of firm do you really want to be. I had no problem doing those little projects for those developers for a while. That could be a great business model. Cash flow comes in and out very quickly. Mm-hmm. It's great. But it will burn people out. It's not sustainable. Unless you're always recycling through new young staff that you're training, and it's not sustainable. So we want projects that will last 4 months, 5 months, 6 months, right? Like, so that we can kind of have a little bit of a stability. The issue with that is that checks do take a while to come in, because these little contractors and developers, clients that have cash flow moving through, they keep the lights on. And we have not denied taking them. We still take them. We love them. It's all good. We're just teaching them that things do take time and that there's a process to them. And the bigger projects do take a month or two to get a check. So if you're just counting on that big $30,000, $40,000 check, the lights may be out. So you need to figure. And that's another thing that we did. We opened another office in the Dominican Republic as another entity, sister company. One, to give back to our communities where I come from. There are not a lot of opportunities, but also taking advantage of that little time zone, cash, dollar currency change. There's a lot of advantages. Everybody's doing it. Why wouldn't we do it? Right? Like, it's, just if you don't think everybody's doing it, just call JetBlue now. And I'm sure they're going to answer from India yeah. or any company, right? Like someone from China or India is answering the phone. But yeah, that's how we've been doing it.
Yeah. And you have to start somewhere. So, you have to hit a certain number of projects, make sure you can pay the bills. But then as you can start paying the bills, you don't have to continue to do that small, tiny work. You can reevaluate yourself. You can restructure the firm and what you're going for.
The problem is you get too busy doing the wrong things.
Yeah.
That's the worst, right? Like that reminds me of this, I think I got this book from Malcolm Maxwell, maybe it was, that they were like, this guy has a saw and he's cutting trees. And he's like, well, this is taking forever to cut this tree. And he's like, well, why don't you stop and sharpen the saw? Because I'm too busy cutting the tree. So you have to make sure that you sharpen the saw, right? That analogy is perfect, because it's like, wait a minute. You're not, it's like running on an empty tank. You have to stop and, do an oil change. And that's a mindset, Caitlin. It's a mindset. The BAC or architecture school together doesn't help us with that, because architecture school teaches us to just work. Like, well, when are you going to be doing? I'm going to be done someday, and I'm going to work until I'm done. Like that's it. And that's not sustainable, right? Like that's why architects, I just got something from Enex here saying that why architects drink too much. And I'm like, well, I know why. Why architects get divorced, man? Well, I know why. It's like, we got to change that stuff. We got to start changing it. For sure, we're a profession that's not sustainable in romance, not sustainable in relationships, not sustainable financially. We're not really, we have to change that. We definitely have to change that. And it begins with that planning early on, and understanding the unintended consequences of what you say and what you do. There's like long ripple effects to every project that you take. The projects that we say no. There have been a lot of projects. There was a 270 unit building. We said no. I was going to lose my entire staff. I was going to have to double my team, get a bigger building, and not know everybody's name. And I don't want that. I do not ever want to know. I need to know everybody's name. That's it.
Yeah. Speaking of your team, I know you mentioned you're at 10 people now.
Well, we have 10 in-house. Mm-hmm. We have 3 in the Dominican Republic, and we do have 2 consultants. We have Christian Nilsson, amazing. I met him through some referral in Entre Architect. He's our specifications consultant and peer reviewer. And actually, I also partner with Jeremiah Russell, the chair from the Small Firm Exchange, from time to time, and he does peer review for me too. And we have a land surveyor that we basically acquired. Like, they do land survey for us. Because we started in the business of doing little home additions and renovations. And if you don't have a land survey, you can't go to zoning or you don't know anything. So, and most of them would take 6 months to get us a survey. So we get it in 2 weeks. So that's been good. Yeah.
Yeah. Do you have any advice for, anybody starting out their firm and growing their team? Or you even talked about, the work you bring in. You don't want to lose everybody if they're going to jump ship if you keep doing small work or go after that giant project. So do you have any advice on that team?
So my advice, I guess I'll tell you, are on transitions, and then maybe that as a result, they will understand the advice. So first we only hire who we could afford. And at that start, we hired like interns, but they were always paid. That was also written into our bylaws as an entity. Everything needed to be paid, nothing free. Because we would invest our time in them and they would invest their time in us. And then if you don't have any commitments, if there's no skin in the game, nobody cares, right? They would show up anytime they wanted. So we will hire a lot of international students. And unfortunately, those international students will go, right? Like the visas expire, they will go. They want to also try other things other than this firm before they go. It's like someone that's really in the market dating, right? Like, well, they're not marriage material yet, right? So, and that's okay. That's actually good. They need to know what's going on in the market. So, so we then moved into, let's look for people that were more consistent, maybe even married, but they didn't have a whole lot of experience. We would train them because there was consistency on that, like having a household. Like you can't just walk away. They also needed more money. So we had to figure out how to increase our fees because we had to maintain this team. So the balance of the sweet spot that we came up with was the balance between some degree of international student or transitory person, because it's part of our mission to educate the next generation of architects. So a solid degree of about 60 or 40% of people that will be here, that love being here, that move the ship. They're not just following me. They move the ship with me. And, there's another 20 or 30% that may or may not stay here, but we would try to transition into project types that they would like to so that they can explore it. So we expanded from housing, which it is our core, to restaurants. We have a lot of restaurants, churches, daycares, and office fit outs. So we've been doing, that's like all of the things that we do. So, and that helps them get that experience. And then they realize they love residential. And I'm like, we tried it. We know how to do it. So that's it. Advice is, when looking for partnerships with someone, look at their work ethic and if they're honest. I know there's a lot. Me and Marcos, I can tell you right now, we know where the ship is at every moment, and we don't sugarcoat anything ever. We don't take anything personally ever, but to get there, it took some time. But we don't take anything personally. We always use these words. It is for the best interest of the children, and every decision. It's always for the best. Sometimes it's not the best financial decision for our pockets, for profits. Like I want profits for my pocket, but it's like getting monograph for everybody, which is like $70 a month, so that we can manage everybody and staff them correctly and make sure that nobody's under or overstaffed. I mean, that costs some money. Getting out of this, licenses like across the board, like out of these docs. I mean, that's like, what was it? We spent like $25,000, like instead of the monthly, we were doing the yearly because that saves us time. That saves us a lot of money, actually, if you can do it like that. So that means I don't have a lot of profit for me at the end of this year, but I'm investing it in what's for the best interest of the children, right? Mm-hmm. So always doing things for the best. I hate new softwares. People think I'm good at that stuff. I'm not, but I know that, I can't keep doing the little Excel sheets anymore. Like I got to have a monograph project management software. I can't keep doing business the same way I was doing it before. I love simplicity, but we're not 4 people. So when you're like a 10, you need to manage the team very, very well. And that goes to another concept. We learned from INCARB, I picked this up, the Licensing Advisor Summit all the way back in Minneapolis, that a diverse firm, well managed, will always outperform every other team. That's a fact. Yeah. But a diverse team not managed properly like it's the worst idea ever. Like you will lose money every day, all day long. There will be problems in communication. There will be problems in. So we've been trying to always stay as a diverse team, well managed, and the numbers don't lie. Like from like $40,000 the first year that we made, that was as much as I made. You know, we're over $1 million now. So it's like now we're on the. You know, we've been over $1 million for a little while. So it's like we're on another game now. But it's because of the management. Like if we don't manage people, so when partnering, make sure that there's honesty. Make sure that they bring something else into the table that you do not bring. I tell Marcos every day. I told him yesterday, I couldn't do this without you. The moment you say that you don't want to do this anymore, let me know so that I can call a town hall meeting and downsize to like 3 people, because I wouldn't be able to run this office without you, you know, literally. He's very, very focused, very consistent, good with the numbers and math. I am more on the creative thinking, visionary, kind of where are we going for the next 20 years kind of guy. He knows how to get us there. You know, I say we should go this direction. He jumps on board, never looks back, and we move forward. So that's important. And it's something, God plays a role in that. I don't know how many people believe in that, but you know, we met back in the Dominican Republic. You know, like it was meant to be, you know. There are a lot of partnerships I see that don't work because they're like the same thing and they do the same thing. It's like, why duplicate the work, you know?
Yeah.
And hiring staff, don't rush that. I would say, you know, start with students. I would say start there, collaborating with other students. And you can create like a joint venture with someone else that wants to go on their own, but they're scared too. And you do it together. It's always easier to do things together, you know, with somebody else. Kind of like, you know, and even renting together. Yeah.
Yeah. You got somebody to pick their brain, and,
that's right.
You know, you can lean on them if something's not your strength versus theirs, or you're both learning something at the same time. So.
Absolutely. Mm-hmm.
And I know you mentioned that you were an adjunct instructor when you started out the firm, and you're still teaching. Yeah. So what have you been teaching and staying involved over at the BAC?
So at the BAC right now, this semester I am actually not teaching, but I taught City Lab, which is an introduction to the kind of design studies, right? Like it's for architects, masters, bachelors, but also interiors, landscape. All of them take those classes, and it's basically learning about design through the built environment. What's already there, it's a book. Everything that you see is basically a book of history and why that material, why not, look how we failed, right? Like it's really telling you a lot of feedback, and they pick up a lot of skills from that. Now, me and Tim Malinge, one of the senior designers of Flow, are putting together now a framework for design excellence workshop for residential architecture using the AIA framework. That's going to be for the fall of 2025, where we're going to basically grab the 10 principles from quote, quote 10, and turn it into actionable, measurable items that then we implement across the board within our office, but also so that those students are empowered and know what is design for communities, equitable communities. What is design for energy? Like, what does that mean? Like, you know, is it solar panels? Is it thicker insulation, like thicker walls? Is it, what is that? There are things like design for integration or design, again, for change, right? Like you are today very healthy, but tomorrow you may not, right? But not only do you change as an individual, but so does the climate change around you. So how do you prepare for that, right? How do you adapt it? So we're very excited on that because we made an executive order at the office of applying the framework. And most offices like, what is that? I don't know. Just learn about it. Just commit to it. And I'm one of those people that says I'm going to do something and I tell everybody I'm doing it so that they hold me accountable. And I just became a Harris Energy modeler, which I don't even know why I did that, but it's amazing. But it was hard, really hard. And I gave everyone the chance of taking the class, and we would pay and also give a raise. Nobody took it. So I took it. I should probably give myself a raise. But
well, I mean, that was the promise you gave other people. So
I think I should, you know what? Executive order on that. But yeah, so that framework is very important to us. We want to apply it into the residential market more than anything so that we see how even doing a little home addition, you can apply those principles, right?
Mhm.
And that can survive even the rest of the buildings around you and how they complement. So we're very excited on that. More to come on that. We'll see how it goes. But yeah, I tutor Revit, Rhino, Grasshopper, several different softwares, and they just call me and I see if I know it and I just do it. I
Yeah.
teach it. Yeah.
Anything to help. And I know you mentioned COAT with AIA, and I know you've been involved in a number of organizations between AIA, NOMA, and CARB. You've mentioned them all throughout our conversation so far. Do you have advice for others looking to get involved? I know it can be overwhelming with so many different organizations and, what to jump into. Was there any advice for how you started getting involved?
So the first thing with the small firm exchange, they wanted a board member. And honestly, to be a board member, you had to first be like a state rep. I have no idea how I immediately became a board member. Like I applied. I saw the call for requests and I was like, yeah, I'm going to do it. There have to be a desire to mingle with others, like-minded individuals within the industry. There has to be an itch for that. Even if it was to, a lot of, I actually know an architect who says, I don't look at anybody else's work. I don't look at anything else. I don't want to be influenced by anybody. And I was like, that's cool, but you don't live in a vacuum. So, I mean, you have to see how people are doing business so that you can learn from that, not just about design. So there was that itch. And what I have learned from having 3 children is that where 1 can fit, 2 can fit, where 2 can fit, 3 can fit, right? So you can make things work. So I show up to all the meetings, all the board meetings, but you prioritize and you say, well, this is important to me. And I see the inherent value. In fact, being a member of the small firm exchange has saved a lot of money to this office. A lot of money. You would say, well, you're donating your time voluntarily, but the skills, the friends, the troubles, right? Like, oh, well, this client wants the Revit model. No, who owns the Revit model? Like, I can call them. They're my boot camp. Like they're my think tank, right? So we can talk. There's you get so much from giving. It's just incredible. With the Young Architect Forum, on another completely different side, talented individuals within 10 years of licensure that, what's next, right? Like they want to know what, after you get licensed, what happens? And they're in the different walks of life. Many of them could be seniors, that just happen to get licensed. Others it's trending younger over time. I think the improvements to the exams and everything's making people kind of do it younger. But there's so much that we rob off of each other. And I become so much humble, like so humble for, when I see the struggles of others, the success stories of others, and how we can all advocate for excellence within the profession, which is ultimately what we're trying to do, which translates into better, equitable, diverse communities, right? So that's how I do it. And I keep getting, after you start in one, it's just everybody calls you. It's like Noma called me, you call me. People just start calling me. I did a Noma last year in Portland. I was doing a presentation for Afro Latinx, and now I wasn't even Noma. I just became Noma this year. Oops, sorry. This year I became officially Noma. Very proud because the firm could afford it. Yeah. So, but you make it work, and you realize that there is so much into it. I will kind of scale back a little bit over the next few years as I kind of sprinkle throughout the conversation. I'm kind of learning how to live. I'm learning how to prioritize. I'm learning that I own the firm. The firm doesn't own me. I'm also learning to trust that the next check will really come no matter what. Because sometimes I put in a lot of time, and sometimes I don't put in a lot of time, and the firm still goes the same way. It doesn't matter, right? So taking the kids, roller skating or for ice cream, I see that the firm is fine. It is to that degree right now where things are going to continue to move forward, whether I'm here or whether I'm not here. Things continue to move forward, right? And in doing so, I will scale back to give others a chance too. I did 2 terms with the Young Architect Forum. somebody else should be doing that too, another voice, another diverse voice, because that's the problem. If the older generation doesn't pass the baton, you have to early pass the baton, and empower others. And there was a young lady that just got licensed too. And I'm like, she took some of I do ARE classes, by the way, Mondays and Tuesdays for free. So, and she passed all the exams for my classes, and she's next. So with the small firm exchange, I want to intensify my interest on that. And I'm running for chair of the small firm exchange next year. So because I see that I can have a lot more impact within the small firm exchange than with the Young Architect Forum or even NOMA. So I am working on that because I care about practice and the making of a practice, a diverse, sustainable, resilient practice. So and that's what I'm doing to live more balanced and not get divorced again. Right?
Yeah, I have time for the kids.
Again. That's right.
So
that's right.
No matter if the kids are your actual kids or the firm. So
that's right. Mm-hmm.
And I do want to hit, because I know you're focused on increasing diversity in the pipeline of architects. Do you have advice for other professionals for looking for ways to help that mission?
Yeah, we had that question at the small firm exchange level with the all call. An all call is all the state reps from all the states come together with the board members, and we were talking about that. And there are states that struggle. Like Maine has a big problem with that. Like there are other states, like Maine, probably New Hampshire, they have problems with that. But Massachusetts, not so much. We're pretty diverse here as it is, so it's easy to find people. So what I've told them is start connecting with schools and broaden your horizon, your radius, right? Maybe you are open to remote work with someone from a diverse background. Maybe you are and get involved. And diversity is everywhere. Like it's not just of color, right? Like it's not just this. Go to, even in Maine, there should be communities. There are communities, unfortunately, that struggle. And there are probably communities with a lot of young ladies that don't know that they could be amazing architects, that's even a path for them. They think that they could only be housewife and that's it. There's some places like that, right? So I'm like, you can incentivize that, change that by incentivizing or infusing energy into those communities. Just find them. And it's just like if I told you to look for yellow cars outside, you're going to find a whole lot of yellow cars today.
When you start looking for them.
Exactly. So you say, well, what about not just, sex diversity, but what about like, what's the heritage? What about the age? What about people that wanted to always be architects and they became firefighters? Well, what if they wanted to do this as a thing? Like, so you have to figure out how to meet them halfway. It's not easy. Easier said than done. Very, very much because of communication barriers, synchronization barriers. It requires patience. It requires an intense amount of patience to realize that others come from some other background, right? Just like you do. And that they may be teaching you something. And if you're stuck in your ways, you're not going to learn. So it is this flexibility of giving, but also knowing that you're gaining something from that team, from that person too. And then looking backwards and saying, well, now after 20 years, I can see that there's more offsprings of this firm. Other people, maybe contractors, maybe realtors, maybe developers, maybe architects, but there's others that you touched. And there's not a financial number to that. That's a legacy. That's our legacy here at Flow, of increasing that. So I would say go to those schools, broaden that horizon, define that for you. What is diversity for you, right? Define it for you and see how you can begin creating that change and crafting that change. And investments too, not just like hiring and training, but like investment, like capital investment. Like we have a scholarship. If a little firm like Flow can have a scholarship at the Boston Architectural College, and we do donations too. Annually, we do a lot of donations to communities in need. And we show up there with our suits saying we're architects. Like it says architects. Like, what is that? It's like, that's a good question. Let's start there. Right? You know? And there's so many, there's a lot of opportunities if you really want to do it, you know?
Yeah. And just finding those opportunities. And if you look for them, they'll be right in your face. So.
That's right.
And I always like wrapping up my podcast with this final question, and it's, what advice do you have for young professionals just starting their career?
Just starting their career, like getting into architecture for the first time, or just graduating from.
Up to you.
Okay.
Or if there's a little piece that, you always reflect on no matter where you were in the process.
I always give this advice to some of our young staff here about how I took school very seriously and I didn't have fun. And they always say, well, you do live really well today. It makes sense. But I kind of regret that I didn't socialize enough during school. I personally didn't. I'm not saying to become a party person, but I think that it sets you up for success in life, not just in business. To understand that success comes with certain degree of fun and partying and laughter, right? Success comes with more than just, I got straight A's, which I did at the Boston Architectural College, right? But I wish I got a B and made some really cool friends that I can call right now. I don't have many of them, they know me, but I don't know many people. So, but I wish I socialized a little bit more. And it's a skill for life. It's a skill that you're going to pass to your children, to be able to network and connect with other people and have empathy with other people. And, you just learn so much. You learn how to dance bachata and salsa. Like you learn some other things. And those are the things that as I have gotten older, and I'm only 35, you really look back and say, wow, wasn't that awesome? Like those days were amazing, right? And it wasn't, was an amazing Revit model I did or an amazing little. No, you remember those moments. So I would say, don't go too much in one or the other. Make sure that you stay the course consistently, and follow that itch, whatever it leads you. Trust that itch. I've always found myself in the wrong room and make it the right room for me after I walk out, right? So, and I guess there's two. Have fun and follow that little voice inside. That's super scary, but it's awesome. It really is. It's awesome. After you do it, you're like, wow, that wasn't so bad. But it's awesome.
Yeah, but following that itch is such good advice. I know I was talking to local Carnegie Mellon students that, what their passionate wasn't perfectly aligned with what their studios were. I'm like, no, keep going. You'll get there, get past that class, and then follow your passion. Because I know you could go into so many different firms and have such a great career, no matter if you're slightly unaligned with a particular class. Just
it's always good to question to like why I mean, none of this has been easy. I mean, being where I am right now, it hasn't been easy. But like, do you love that enough that there's something on the other side that will make it all worth it, right? Like it's gonna be a little jump, and it's just worth it. Like, the mix of fun, hard work, dedication, a little bit of suffering. I'm not gonna tell you that there's none because that's gonna be a lie. No. But it's so much better and sweeter afterwards, and then you do it again.
Yeah.
You go for the next one. Make sure to tell others and help others in the way, because you know that you've been helped by a lot of angels in the way.
Exactly. And so I want to thank you, Darwin, for taking the time to speak with me. If anybody has any questions or wants to reach out to you or see what Flo's up to, what's the best way to get a hold of you?
Or Instagram is pretty active, Flow Design Architects, at Flow Design Architects. Or YouTube channel is really active too, also at Flow Design Architects. We do have also a Flow Architectural Academy, which is where I put all of my ARE recorded sessions, free for everyone. Don't expect answers to the exams there. We're not doing that, but they're good. And I have my own public Instagram, which is Mr. Fortuna Flow. I like the flow. So Mr. Fortuna Flow, you can find me there. And you can reach out. You'll be able to connect with me. I'm still pretty open, pretty findable. Eventually I'll start closing some doors, but I'm good. I'm here, and thank you for having me, Caitlin.
Yeah, and I'll leave links down below, so it makes it real easy to find you. So thank you, Darguin, for taking the time to speak with me.
All right. Thank you. Bye-bye.
I hope you enjoyed our discussion today. Learn some advice to take with you and see how our industry is all tied together to create the world around us. Check out the description below for any links or resources we discussed. If you liked the episode, please do me a favor and hit the subscribe button. Give me a thumbs up and leave a comment below. It really helps others be able to discover this resource and support finding that career path that best works for them. If you know someone that has inspired your own career that you'd like me to interview, let me know in the comments below, or you can reach out to me via my website or LinkedIn. I'd be happy to share their story or your own. Thank you again, and I cannot wait for the next career story I get to share with you next week.